Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Could have afforded, maybe slightly, commodity prices have shot up and they had to prioritize. Maybe we leave a bit of this and have this. Government over a time has come up to give us various explanations for the high costs of commodities. At one time, the Right Honorable Prime Minister attributed this to, of course, COVID-19, where now most industries are now just starting up to work, yet there are so many orders. Then we had the Ukrainian war. Now we have high taxation. So day by day, there is something that comes out. At one time, it was fuel. We had issues of drivers at Malaba, Busia, who had went on strike over COVID-19 test. That is long gone. But still, fuel prices continue to shoot up. At some places, the liter goes as far as 5,000, even 500, some 5,200. And this is where we are. And the ordinary man is wondering what has to be done. When you go to Kasita, they'll tell you, well, for us, we are importers. For us, we are that last bit of it. Because if I'm told this is the amount of money I have to pay, I just have to have some slight increase to cover up that. Now, Jagenda, this is a time that has been along for some time. Recently, even schools shocked us. Number of schools now have hiked school fees. If you look at the circulars. And the reason they'll give is the commodities we are going to use, the beans, this and that, have increased. We can no longer run the same budget. Remember, we're just coming from COVID-19.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Chirabo Nyonyi Ntono, and good morning to all our viewers this morning, everybody watching UBC TV today. It's some cold morning in Kampala. We had some slight showers around. Kenyana was telling us about the weather here. And you were talking about, well, today, whether people know whether it is actually still a public holiday or that was, you know, Easter is also very interesting in a way that what is Easter Monday, for example? You know, when we go for Christmas, we do Christmas and we do Boxing Day the following day.
Unwrapping.
Unwrapping. Well, everybody, what they call them, they describe it the way they want to describe it. But of course, they say the tradition is you receive some gifts, which you of course now unwrap the following day, which is actually Boxing Day. But Easter Monday, because Good Friday has its own significance, and the Bible clearly talks about what Good
Holy
Friday
Thursday
is.
Still has.
Holy Thursday, you know, when you read the chronology of the events in the Bible, in the Synoptic Gospels that led to the crucifixion, the death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, very elaborate in there. But there is nothing like Easter Monday, even in the Bible. The Bible doesn't talk about Easter
So some
Monday.
cultures roll eggs as a sign of the stone rolling away the stone from the tomb. So on Easter Monday they do that.
Yeah, but you see, when was the stone rolled away? Because if he resurrected on Sunday, did he stay in the tomb again?
Some just call it a bank holiday.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying now. But it is in our tradition, and you can't stop anybody from celebrating it. You can't tell them, please, there will be no Easter Monday because the Bible has not told us anything about Easter Monday. We don't get into that. So, but of course, it was a day for us. We know that after Easter Sunday, then we have another day called Easter Monday for us to keep away. And we live in societies that also cherish public holidays. They cherish holidays. People have those days from stresses of work, and there's so much commotion here and there, back and forth.
Wash off.
Exactly. And you now talk about skyrocketing prices. Now, amazingly, during the weekend that we've just gone through, there are people who have spent stupid. They've really spent money. They've spent and enjoyed life, and of course saying, we'll get back to work on Tuesday, then again, start afresh.
Actually, I know you don't
again.
move around. You're not a man of nightlife. But some of us at times make a few tours here and there. I want to tell you on Easter.
Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday. Somehow said, no, let me first move around and see what happens. Of course, under association, a few of us made phone calls and we're like, no, let's just cruise around. I want to tell you, I saw how places, Easter Monday, if you took Entebbe Road,
Yesterday.
you would fear to enter in any if you're very conscious about COVID-19 because they're all full to capacity. Many of them, even police just told them, look, you can no longer access, allow people to enter.
Yeah, you see, that's the irony, the irony of life, actually, especially in countries like Uganda, where I've lived much of my time. I called a border friend of mine, and I was just asking him to do something for me back at home. And he said, mzee siriyo, manyi twagenze kulia cash, tulie no, is it right? Is it bicycle riding, border riding, there is what rest, there is what rest. So later, I think that was on Sunday. So yesterday I called him and spoke to him and said, mzee kati, because it is on now, it was a day. And you see, that's the beauty of Ugandan life. And just recently, I think there was a report that said Ugandans are happier than any other person in the region. You know, and Kenyans were actually struggling with that. Kenyans have been this, Kenyans have been that. Why? And of course, it was attributed to the skyrocketing prices, commodity prices, and said the life. The cost of living in Kenya is very high for them to afford. They don't have all the plenty of the food that we have. Well, the food is expensive here, but there's a lot of food. We have the food in plenty. We have the food, and so we've gone through that season. Now we talk about Easter Monday yesterday, and of course we've gone past Easter. We are now into different things. Children are back in schools, rather they are back home for holidays. Some universities are already back in schools. Some universities are doing their final exams for semester exams. So things are happening. But you say you moved around and visit places. There are people who are now thanking God. They are walking to the bank to deposit some money, because over the weekend they sold crates and crates of beers, sodas, of waraji and anything. People sold jerry cans of nguli. So they're walking to the bank to deposit money. Those who put up shows and concerts and etc.
Which were massively attended.
And you see, there's also that hunger. On Friday, I had an opportunity to also move around, because I do. And I noticed many of the local churches and the other places of worship organized night prayer services for that day. For whatever reasons, it was Good Friday. It's Friday, and the tradition with many of these churches is normally they have night prayers on Friday, overnight prayers, because they have a Saturday when they're not supposed to be in office, except for those who are self-employed. Then they have Sunday, of course, when they have recuperated and rejuvenated to go back for service. So many of their churches were filled to capacity. And you could tell, because I think the last time churches had these night prayer services was in January, February, March, March 2020. So all through for the remaining 9 months of 2020, for the entire 2021 last year, these did not have this. So there is that anger, not anger but hunger. People are hungering to go to church, to go and worship, to go to places. Now come in, entertainment, concerts, bars, karaoke, comedy, and etc. But it is business. As someone is waiting for people to come and buy, and the sugar is rising, and the posho is rising, and the beans are rising in prices, somebody is also waiting from one angle. To actually say, I have also stocked my beers. I have beers here with me, I have these wines with me, I have this waraji with me, and people will go there. People go and enjoy.
Someone go
to
made
steam,
a joke.
people go to, yes.
Was somewhere and they said, but let's be very honest. Beer has maintained this price. And some of these things, liquor and all that.
How much are beers? I think 3,000. I actually didn't know. But I was somewhere on a Sunday, and I visited a place, I visited a home where there was merrymaking, eating, dancing, and all the things. And after everybody had eaten, then they served them with so many beers and drinks of all types. I saw drinks that I'd never seen. 4th Street, 7th Street, Marula, Black Label, Sausage, Johnson and not Johnson and Johnson, as I'm talking about vaccines. John Walker. and 4 cousins, 5 sisters, all the things were actually there for every one of them. And of course, I looked at one of the beer bottles that had a price. It had a price tag on it, fixed to it from the factory, 3,000 shillings. And so, if you need to take 5 beers, then you need 15,000 Uganda shillings. And somebody can actually afford that. I've heard about commodity prices, but of course nobody talks about maybe beers also increased and a lot of the things. But of course, beers are not for all of us. I seated where I was seated, they were taking beers, I wasn't taking beers. But we all ate food. We all ate food. So when the price
you all had to wash your hands.
Yeah, but when the price for cooking oil goes high, those who take beer and I who doesn't take beer, all of us are affected by the high prices of cooking oil or charcoal or etc. So it is a life that we are actually living in, but our planners, those who plan for the country, those who plan for us, and those whom we trusted to chart the way forward for us, should of course come out, explain to us, and I don't think it's just even about explanation. Certain things just need to be implemented. What do they have to do? That they should do it to fix the situation, and the rest of us continue, excel, and go on.
So far, a number of yes, I saw the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance, and Secretary to Treasury when he said, we are going to analyze the situation and see. But this has been around now for some time. Where Ugandans are complaining of these high prices. Do you feel there is much that government can do?
Yes, I think there should be, and of course it has to be government.
Because some look to be external factors.
Yeah, but yes, exactly. Even when they're external factors, we do not live in an isolated world, and that's why we keep talking about the international community. And I normally tell people, when you talk about international community, you're not talking about the United States, you're not talking about China and France and England and anything. Uganda is part of the international community because we are members of the international community. So yes, the external factors happen, and that's why we have experts, of course. We have the central bank that is mandated to help us stabilize, to stabilize our macroeconomics, microeconomics. They're supposed to do this. Not all Ugandans qualify to be the PSST. Not all Ugandans qualify to be the governor of the central bank. Not all Ugandans qualify to be the accountant general. Not all Ugandans qualify to be the ED of the planning authority. Not all Ugandans qualify to be the chief economist or whatever that is. So people have specialities, and it's not only a Ugandan affair. For example, go to Kenya. When you look at what is happening in Kenya now, the other day I read I think a tweet from one of the politicians, in Kenya. I think it was either Musalia Mudavadi or Kalonzo Musyoka, one of them, and they were saying, how come the prices of fuel in some places in Kenya are more expensive than it is even in Uganda? People living in Kenya, and they are living at the border ends, neighboring Uganda, in Busia, in Malaba, they find it cheaper to actually come to Malaba, Uganda, or to cross over to Busia to come and buy fuel here, and go back, do work there. Yet, it's common sense that we would be running from Uganda to go to Kenya.
Because we are landlocked and
exactly, because there is no oil, there is no fuel that comes into this country without it coming through Kenya. You know, Kenya is the port through which we get our own. Our trucks scamper to go to Mombasa, to go elsewhere, to get the fuels, bring it for us here, and that's why it is even, it has some higher cost, because they will tell you coming in through Malaba or Busia is cheap and most cost effective as opposed to coming in from Mutukula, because there is some extra amount of money in dollars, I think, per barrel or whatever that is, which of course makes it a little more expensive. So, but these are issues that we need to look into and say, oh, where are we? Now, the PSST of Uganda, the Minister of Finance for Uganda, Uganda's economists should be now looking to the other side of Kenya, talking to the PSST of Kenya, talking to the Minister of Finance in Kenya, and harmonizing and finding solutions. Because yes, it is not just a Ugandan affair, and it is still the government, because we all look to the government, we all get back to Govi, we all get back to Kasaija, we all get back to Ting, the deputy governor. These are the people that we go to, Michael and every other, asking them what needs to be done, because when we get inflation, when we get these problems, when commodities start skyrocketing, we ask ourselves, do we even have the money to sustain? What is causing all these problems? What are we doing? For example, the things that you think are locally made here, it's boo-boo, it's local content, and ask questions and say, why would soap rise from maybe previously 3,000 to 9,000, 10,000, 3, 4, 5 times more expensive? Why? And yet we have Mukwano here, we have Bidiko in Jinja, we have all these soap making factories around us. These are the questions that of course come to us as Ugandans. Then we need to get, the government needs to actually explain and maybe find a solution to that.
One of the issues, I was speaking to one of the people that is in one of the big industries here that manufacture soap, just talked about, and they told me, Robert, this is the problem that many Ugandans don't understand, that even what is locally made here, sometimes ingredients or raw materials, we usually import them. They gave me an example of palm oil they use in making soap. They told me, yes, you've done a lot in the islands, but it's not sufficient enough. We import, and they clearly stipulate how the cost of palm oil globally has dramatically shot up. It is a raw material required for the soap that you get in Uganda. So to me, a number of things we are talking about, Uganda, we're not entirely having all it takes. Some we have, but they're not sufficient enough to sustain our industry. So you find that sometime you have to import them, where globally, because of the issues of COVID-19, some industries closed. Tell me that Uganda were hit, but not so much as some countries, where industries, the directors died, the owners. So there's a lot, now that the economy has reopened globally, so there's so much demand. And for you to, and factors of economics, no demand and supply. If the demand is so much, yet the supply is very minimal. So the few industries that managed to make it through and now begin working, they'll hike prices. So it is he who has the capacity, let him buy.
And I think you've made a very important observation here, that we just coming from COVID-19, the 2-year disruption has really endangered world economics. We might not have suffered so much from COVID like all the other countries, but like you said, until you go to certain places, then realize and discover that people lost manpower, people lost workers, people lost lots of things, because it's just one thing to count how many people died, but it's also another thing to start looking into the CVs of the people who died. That, okay, yes, in Uganda we lost about 3,000 to COVID, about 3,000, but it's also important to look at the 3,000 and say, okay, let's look at the 3,000. if we lost X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, what were they doing, and how much were they contributing and adding on to the economy? Now, they're not being here. What does that mean? Some of these were employers, and that their death meant that there would be actually maybe jobs for 1, 2, 3, 4 people in a way. So we need to all appreciate that we had that COVID disruption, that so many things are happening. There are countries in the world that virtually closed all the other things and concentrated on fighting the disease. I heard it from the executive director of Uganda Cancer Institute, Dr. Rem. He's saying that in Africa, all cancer institutes, all cancer centers closed except Uganda. Now, people said, we have lived with cancer, we have had cancer, we know how to manage cancer. We've lost people to cancer, and we've also had cancer survivors. So we know how to do cancer, we know how to manage cancer. But we have an enemy now called COVID-19. So let's close cancer and concentrate on this thing, because somebody can have cancer and they tell them you are taking your first line of treatment, or second line, or third line, or fourth line. It is at stage 1, it's at stage 2, you are now going for chemo, you're now doing these things. They have a sequence of treatment for cancers. Nobody had a sequence for treatment of COVID. COVID comes in today, and the other day the person is gone. You come to hospital today, we used to hear these testimonies. Somebody goes to hospital, they take themselves to hospital, they get to hospital, 2 hours later, they've lost their breath, another hour later, they're on the ventilator, another day later, they are dead. So that rapid, and you don't even know what to do when and what to do thereafter. So they said, we'll concentrate on this thing. So now that means it, in a way, affected there are other sectors of maybe health or the economy, etc. Putting all the energies and efforts into one thing and say, here is where we should now go and focus to this. So that's what now makes it a global thing. But nonetheless, we still have to get back to the government and this government. The only challenge that we have is making political statements where we do not even deserve, where we do not need them.
And about these political statements, we've had a number of politicians calling upon government to reduce taxes. Now, when you look at a country with this liberal economy, you know that for any trader, it's all about maximization of profits. When we look at this move, we don't have a law, Jagan, that compels you to sell at a fixed price. Even if government came up and reduced taxes, at my store, I still have the right to sell something the way I want to sell it, as long as they're willing buyers. Remember one time we had an incident in our country where people said a certain piece of land could not buy that amount of money. Someone said, well, there was a willing seller
and willing buyer.
And a willing buyer. So this issue of reducing taxation, I want to get your opinion on it.
No, but you see, those are some of the political statements that we make. Because I have not heard about reducing taxation when it's coming from Rujoki of Uganda Revenue Authority. I have not heard that from Richard Byarugaba of NSSF. I have not heard Gobi say that. I have not heard Mvawala, Dr. Mvawala say that of National Planning Authority. I have not heard these experts. I have not heard from Professor Barunywa talk about, but those who say reduce prices are the politicians and the media practitioners, the Jagenders of this world, the Chiravos of this world who want to be a councillor there or an MP here or there. So that's one thing. And we say it emotionally. I don't think we also say it with reason. Because when you look at the tax, we've always had the conversation of broadening the tax base. Broaden tax base, broaden tax base, broaden tax base. Let the tax base be big, that those who pay so much taxes can actually pay, some little taxes can be reduced, such that everybody pays in there. But we are, there are just a few people. There are people who pay taxes mandatorily because they only get pay as you earn from you. You have no choice. There are people who pay taxes because they are earning a salary here or doing a transaction and they need to have a TIN number, a tax identification number, and lots of things, you know. So when you get the statistics from Revenue Authority, they will tell you the number of how many taxpayers that we have in this country and the active taxpayers. the active taxpayers. So the register has so many taxpayers, but the active ones are also exactly. And at, the end of, and at the end of the day, then there is a demand for this and that service.
Because this one is saying on these essential commodities, say soap, fuel.
Exactly, and I also feel pained to buy soap, a bar of soap at 9,000. Soap that I used to buy for 2,500, 2,700, maybe 3,000. We could have these choices and say, prices in supermarkets are fixed prices. You know, when you go to supermarket and something is 3,000, it's 3,000. Yet, I can't go to Chikubo where I can negotiate and say, nengenda gule miti kumi bansalireko. Then somebody says, okay, miti kumi mfeche mitwale satu mpe mitwale vidi mkasamvu. Then you know that every bar has actually come for 2,700. You can negotiate there, you can negotiate there. So to me, I think yes, but you just said it here, that they will tell you the ingredients for making this, that even when you have mokwano here, even when you have bidiko there, even when you have the other and the other and the other, but where do they get that ingredient? Can we have soap without that ingredient? That's the issue. Can we have soap without that ingredient? Because you see,
without a caustic soda, which you don't manufacture.
Exactly.
You have to import.
Exactly. There is what we call, I think, opportunity cost in our economics, in our basic high school economics. Opportunity cost that you can choose and say, okay, taking porridge without sugar and taking tea without sugar, what would I take? You say, no, porridge without sugar is at least a better option. I'll do the porridge without the sugar, but dry tea without sugar, I may not be able to take that, or my children may not be able to take that, but I can ask my children to take porridge without sugar. So these are things that you need to balance. But is it the same thing that we need to do with the commodities? For example, that if we need an ingredient that makes soap to become soap, can we do without it?
It won't have the form, then it won't be
exactly,
soap.
if we did without it, would we have soap to that? Then the other thing that I talked about, the political statements that we make, the government communicates very shabbily. It communicates very shabbily, vaguely. They are very foggy in their communication, and so misty that they will tell you the prices of fuel have actually increased because we have a problem of testing for truck drivers who are coming into the country. We're going to solve that and we're going to do that. Then the other day they'll tell you, no, we've actually now taken away, we no longer test for COVID. And you would imagine and say, okay, if there is no more testing for COVID, then that means truck driver Semakula will just come in, check, go through the customs, do the thing, certify the papers, look at my manifest, look at my deeds, look at my documentation, then drive the car, come, put the fuel, whatever I'm supposed to put it in at the reserves. Now, and they come and say, and because of that, we now assure you that prices will not go beyond 5,000. What had they looked at? Did they get expert opinion from the economists, from the people who study, who look at global trends to actually know that this is happening now? But
shut up.
Exactly. But actually, this is the international price. That if it happens this way, do they look into all these things? What about if the Ukraine-Russia war continues for another next 1 year? Won't it be another COVID worse? Won't it be COVID part 2 or part 3? Won't it also be a COVID of sorts that it can? If it is the reason that we're having these problems, who of us has the capacity to talk to Putin and Zelensky to actually tell them, put your differences aside, get back to normal, get back to sanity, and let's carry on? Who of us can actually do that to them if that is the problem? And so these are things I think that we need to come to. Now, the other day, they'll tell you prices shouldn't go beyond 5,000. Then everybody fixes them at 5,000. A week later, 2 weeks later, it goes to 5,160. And of course, we continue traveling, we continue moving. None of us leaves our cars at home to actually say, I will not come to UBC to work because you normally give me 2, 3, 4, 5 liters. And so you used to give me 5 liters when it was costing me 25,000 shillings. Now you still give me 5 liters and no, you give me the same amount of money that cannot give me 5 liters. But I've not relocated. I still stay in Entebbe where I stay. So I'll not come to the program.
Ugandans find ways of making ends meet. Well, we'll be going for a short break, and when we return, we'll be discussing more regarding commodity prices and how best can we handle the situation as Ugandans, and of course, what would government do? We'll return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is how we play. Play with power.
This is how we do it.
How we put a team together. This is how we pass on greatness. Because with this team to inspire us, there's nothing we can't do.
Go for goals and win! Buy a Pepsi glass bottle or Pepsi Max 330 ml. Check another crown and win soda, TVs, caps, t-shirts and cash. Redeem prizes at any Pepsi depot or truck countrywide. Terms and conditions apply.
Pepsi, for the love of it.
Total Energies has undertaken a number of initiatives aimed at ensuring that Ugandan entities and citizens are adequately equipped to participate in the oil and gas sector.
Yeah, we do manufacture and supply personal protective equipment. We supply beyond Total Energies. We supply their subcontractors. Yeah, we have seen our company transform from a trading company to a manufacturing entity. We are able to set up some of these facilities that we are enjoying right now. And these facilities also are supporting other sub-sectors. So they have no idea what oil and gas is, but the items they are using are a result of oil and gas. Overall, the industry, manufacturers, suppliers, traders will all enjoy.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. It is still Good Morning Uganda Extra. I am Robert Chirabonyo with my colleague Jagenda Semekula, and we are discussing
Zikusoka
Sajjabi. You have all those names on your passport.
Jagenda Semekula Zikusoka Sajjabi.
All those. Musajja wa Kabaka.
I'm not Musajja wa Kabaka. Nze ndi Muganda.
Oli Muganda.
Abaganda teba basajja ba Kabaka.
Ate bali abira basajja ba Kabaka.
Abatali Baganda basajja ba Kabaka. I am from the Lugafe clan. I can't be Musajja wa Kabaka.
Sibamwe, is it
No. I am from the Lugafe clan, one of the biggest clans in Uganda. So, from Kasujulu Binga.
Now when you take me that side, I don't know even what to say. All I know is I belong to the Maki clan. That is all. But anyway, back to that topic of discussion. Ajagenda, still this, I want us to still concentrate on this discussion of tax exemption or tax reduction or waiving for these specific commodities, because this is where we've seen politicians every government esale kumisolo ebintu babisale bay, and to me I feel it's more of a myth. I don't know what is real.
But you see what happens is even when government does that and says government is going to reduce taxes to Chirabo because you are bringing in this commodity, but Chirabo will not. Chirabo will actually not. Will not reduce the prices to the retailers, because if government says, okay, Chirabo, you bring in soap and you're getting that soap for maybe 5,000 per bar of soap, and Chirabo carries these things and takes them to his shop in Seguku. Jagenda who lives in Seguku will come to Chirabo's shop or send a child to Chirabo's shop, and Chirabo will say, Mtigwa Sabu, Nigwa Sirinji Kenda, or even 10,000. So I shall even, they will even be no, because even when you try to make some noise and say, but government reduced the prices, or government actually gave you this exemption, somebody will say, but that is of course, government just said that yesterday. Me, I still have my old stock. So when I was...
And there's no compelling law.
And there's no compelling law. There is no compelling law. That's the liberalization that we actually have, and that's why we take our children to schools, and your school is here, it pays 1 million per child. My school is here and it pays maybe 500,000 per child. Another school is here and pays 2 million shillings per child. All of our children are in the same class.
The ministry issues are circular, do not exploit,
exactly.
do not...
And somebody will tell you, me, this is my school, I need 2 million shillings per child. If you can't afford 2 million shillings, please try other schools elsewhere. Try other schools elsewhere. Because as you're negotiating and haggling, there's another parent who says just 2 million shillings. They come with bank slips. They have 3 children, paid 6 million shillings, and they're putting it there. You're negotiating for just one child. Banange, that's too expensive, too expensive. Somebody has a bank slip of 6 million shillings for the 3 children. And this, I think, these are the challenges that we have. And I am not competent enough to talk about this. I am not an expert in economics, no. But we are observers, we look at these things, we study them, we look at global trends and all these things. So I think it still gets back to the government. Government needs to do certain things about what we're talking about. Because it's one thing to say, we are giving you, we are reducing taxes for you, because there's been that pressure. And government will lose those taxes. But the Chirabo, who has benefited from that, is coming to cheat me. He is coming to cheat me. And where we live is, somebody opens their shop and says, for me, I am going to sell my tray of eggs at 10,000. And somebody will say, I'm selling my tray of eggs at 12,000. We are all in the same village. So when you come and I say, my tray of eggs is 12,000, and say, but why not 10,000? Because actually when I was in Gayaza, somebody will tell you, go to Gayaza if you can. But me here in Seguku, this is how much I'm actually selling it for. Now, as you're still haggling and negotiating, Chirabo comes and he says, and he pays 20,000, the more balance wakanana, and he goes. And this person is comfortable that because we don't even have a unanimous bargaining voice.
A serious consumer protection.
No, we have something called, I think, consumer protection by somebody called, I think, Nyende. But which consumers are you talking about? Which consumers are you talking about? Yes, because I want to go to Tororo. That's where my mother lives. I'm picking a taxi, and they'll tell me it is 30,000. You are negotiating, you want a taxi for 15,000. I am rushing. I'm rushing, and I'm comfortably seated in the taxi. How much? 30,000 to Tororo. I am seated. Now, how will you negotiate when the 3 of us have the 30,000, you the 2 don't have the 30,000? Then the owner of the taxi will simply just wait and say, I will wait for those who have 30,000, and I'll drive them to, because I will give an excuse and say, haven't you seen the prices of petrol or diesel on these petrol stations? And somebody will say yes. Then because the reasons why I'm going to Tororo are not the same reasons why you are traveling to Tororo. I am going to see my mother. Maybe I'm going to do something with her and she needs me urgently. You are possibly going to see a patient. Some other person is possibly just going to visit.
Then Badi Runyenje with Uganda Consumer Protection Association.
Yes, and whose protection rights are you actually even talking about? You talk about consumers who, when I can't afford a kilo of meat, meat or beef at a butchery for maybe 16,000, somebody is actually buying 3, 4, 5, 6 kilos of the same commodity that I can't afford. So this man will say, I don't care. I'll keep my meat here until the Chiravos who can afford to come and buy from me. So there'll be nothing to say. If we all don't pay this, then nothing will happen. So I think that's the challenge that we're having.
Then also, Jagenda, as we're looking at some of the events that are dominating, recently we are seeing in terms of government communication, would we call it unguided troops? One says this, the other is contradicting this. I want to give you an example. Recently, issues of coffee, the Vince, you find one says, I wasn't party. I never signed, I didn't understand. The other one says, you are irrelevant. You weren't a necessity in this agreement. One says, no, you should come for these summons. The other says, I think it is out of excitement and you're doing your things via media. That's not how things should be done. The other said it was very improper for you, at least drive to the village. And so the first time, these in one way or the other are where we are waiting for official communication, is in one way or the other really hampering the public from having a right fora to understand that yes, this is the direction that should be taken.
Firstly, I normally have no problems with spokespersons of organizations or ministries because they are spokespersons of that particular department or that particular ministry or MDA. And that's not their position. Is if you're the spokesperson of an organization or a ministry and the organization has allowed you to say that on their behalf, then that's what you have to say. You shouldn't be crucified for that. In Uganda we say mutume tatibwa. Because if you've been sent to deliver a message, you're simply your mtume. And you don't have to bring your sentiments or opinion into a particular thing. Talk about the army, for example. If you are Felix Klaije, or if you are Enanga, or if you are Frank Baine, I am now talking about the service, the service forces. That Baine will tell you what the prison situation is. If this morning they've sat in the meeting, the management meeting, whatever that is, and the Commissioner General and the deputy there and the others say, this is the position of Uganda Prison Services.
Uganda communicate.
Now the person who comes out to communicate that is called Frank Baine Mayanja. Now when Baine Mayanja comes and presents that, he is presenting the position of the UPS. Fred Enanga will come and also give you the position of the Uganda Police Force. Felix Kulaije will come and say, hey, this is the position of the army on this thing. It is not Kulaije's opinion. It's not Kulaije's decision. Now Kulaije will communicate on behalf of this force called the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Now that's it, or that's number one. So they've communicated. And when you accuse Kulaije of maybe saying something, how would you even? Now then two, you have maybe the EDs or the MDs or the chairpersons or the ministers or name them. And one minister says this and the other minister says that. I talked about it and said the government communicates in a very shabby way. And that's why even what the people would support or would love or would go with, they find a problem with it. They find a problem with it. We looked at it. I was very observant in the past few days when we were sending off Leto Lanya. And you could, because I was talking to people, I was with Olanya's body from the airport up to a jury. I was everywhere with them and you could talk to the people. And the people wouldn't have a problem according Olanya the best and the befitting state funeral. They wouldn't mind. But the challenge would be, is the other day you're talking about, is it so much money that has been given to service providers? You're talking about money to make a road, and somebody will ask, what has a road got to do with burying Olanya? What has
a movement?
Yeah, but you wait for Olanya to die, and which road are you going to make? And for how long shall we keep Olanya's body for you to make the road? Then the other day they will tell you this money is supposed to be given to the members of parliament in the region to make roads. Then you'll ask a question, since when did MPs start making roads? What about if we lose another person, another giant like Olanya? Then what happens? Again, we give you more money to do another thing or something like that. So you find that the foggy communication, the hazy communication is what normally, it's so slurred that you don't know who is telling you what, who is saying this. The other day, you heard before Olanya died, the Speaker of Parliament, then Deputy Speaker, saying, no, I spoke to Olanya. I spoke to Olanya and he's getting better. He's getting well. Amid these rumors of the man has died, the man has died, the man has died, then there was a voice that said, no, I spoke to him. He sent you greetings and he's okay. Then a couple of days later, the man is dead. So,
and others say the only word he said.
The conspiracy comes in. But somebody very competent had just told us a few days ago. Now again, it is another thing that is coming on. So who is telling us what? Then of course, when Mao and the Chief Justice and Dr. Cheng went, they only went to, I think, maybe to do something with the dead body. So, because we are too impatient to wait for the Chief Justice or Mao or Olanya's brother or Dr. Cheng to actually say, we went. And we got to Seattle, we got the man alive, we were with him, I said this to him, he said this to me. I spoke to him this, and then maybe he didn't respond, but did this. We don't wait for that. We wait for anybody to say anything. Then the other one will say, no, but I think Olanya was dead by the time they went to the US. And another will say, no, but I spoke to him and he's okay, or he was okay, or all the things. So that's why when conspiracies start coming on, no, he didn't die of cancer, he didn't do this. Then the Dr. Orem comes and says, I met this man in his house. He told me he had been diagnosed with cancer and all these things and all these things. I say, no, but we have another version of something, so that is the society that we're living in, and I think that's the challenge. You talk about the VC things. Now, a line minister says, don't ask me. A line minister says, don't ask me. I wasn't
part of it.
I wasn't part of it.
Yes, because he wasn't.
Then another minister says, but I didn't him to be part of it. So what are we doing? Where are we? Are you in a different government? And is another in a different government? Are you serving a different manifesto? And another is also implementing a different manifesto.
Because they should be working in tandem.
That is actually exactly what we're talking about. That's collective responsibility bit of it. Collective responsibility. Because I accept ministers could disagree. And that's why they have cabinet meetings. Because none of us goes to cabinet. They have a north of cabinet, they have a north of secrets rather, that nobody comes out. The only communication that they give us that transpired in cabinet is what they agree upon to actually say, this is what should be communicated to the public. And not everybody communicates it. Then the Minister for ICT and National Guidance will come, go to the media center, or come to UBC here, or call the press in his office and says, yesterday cabinet sat, and this is what we resolved. We're going to do this, 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 we're going to do this. Any question? Then we ask questions and go. But are you saying cabinet sat for the whole day and they only discussed this? Yes. What about, did it just come, we're going to do this, please take tea, walk away and go? There were discussions that we were not privy to and possibly that we're not even supposed to understand. So what they tell us is what comes out. So if there are disagreements in cabinet, then there can actually be disagreements in cabinet and find a common position and say, but you rushed. While we're still negotiating here, you went ahead of us and did this. But you were too slow. We came in because somebody was going to steal from us this. That's why we had to go faster than you anticipated. Now, that can be done there in the bedroom. Then, when it comes here, you have the same position and say, hey, we took responsibility, or we take responsibility as this. And this is what happened. So to me, I think the government needs to know how to communicate its positions, its programs, and its everything to the people. Yes.
Very interesting. Some of the issues that really dominated, that is before the Easter holiday, and of course some coming into the Easter holiday. Now we're back to work, but still we have the high commodity prices. And this we expect maybe to go on for some time. One person was telling, but we can have alternatives. Let's break the monopolies. I was asking now, how fast can you? For example, soap. How fast can you? People are making liquid soap, people are making bar soap. Let government empower cottage industries. All decisions don't seem to be practical in very soon. Maybe we'll just take...
but you see, and I think these are also very good things. My children make liquid soap at home. We know how to make liquid soap at home, but how much soap do we make? And secondly, what does liquid soap do and what doesn't it do? Yes, if I make my own liquid soap in my house, what does that do? because it can, I think, wash the dishes and maybe wash my car and we wash hands and utensils in the house, maybe mop and all the things. Then the other question is, does liquid soap also wash clothes? Does it? These are things that we need to get to. Does it substitute anything? Does it substitute anything? We'll find out. So if we can make liquid soap, and we've done these innovations. We've done these innovations for energy, for gases, where we now build houses and we utilize the biodigesters to see how to benefit from that. Then at least we do the lighting for maybe the compound of the house, and we've normally done this, and it's actually out of these bad situations that we get innovations. While we're still in the villages where there was a lot and plenty of food and there was not much competition for anything, that's how we lived. And you would eat every day, then sleep and like that. Now when things start coming in, competition comes in, challenges come in, then we start innovating. We start thinking about all the things. That's why we are now utilizing certain things, saying no, you can actually have matoke and make flour out of it. Now you then utilize it for this. You can now have this and give it value addition and preserve it this way, do this, do that. We're now learning because of the situation, and that is what actually helps the other countries or the other part of the world, is because they know we're going to have another 6 months of no sunshine. 6 months of no sunshine. It's going to be very cold, it's going to be foggy, it's going to be all these things. How shall we live? Then they prepare for that time. Then they will know we're going to have another 4 hot months. What will we do? It will be very hot in the houses, it will be very hot on the streets, it will be very hot in arenas, it's going to be very hot everywhere. So how do we do? How do we plan for that hot season where it will be very hot and we need to not to put on jackets or ties or something like that? They plan for all these things, but we have a country that is the same every day. It was the same every day. You can plant. Yes, you can plant every day. We are in a country where you don't even have to change your wardrobe for the next 5 years. For as long as yes, exactly. For as long as you can put on the same shirt, same trousers, same everything. There are places that you go to, and it's a season where you go to supermarkets or to stores, and they are throwing away everything, saying now this is winter. We're now taking it away. We're coming into another season, and everything has to change. Your wardrobe has to change, your lifestyle has to change, how you're going to move has to change, things in the house are going to change. Because of that, we are in a country where everything is like that forever. So we need to be innovative. We need to start thinking how to actually manage. As we make noise to the government, but we are the government itself. We are part of the government. So as we make noise here and there, we need to innovate and, of course, also see how to manage life and go on.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Asemakula. We've been looking at commodity prices and, of course, a few issues that really need to be addressed. We are Ugandans. This is our country. Much as commodity prices are really high, we pray and hope. Let's not take advantage of one another. I strongly believe that, yes, there are some shrewd people in the business community that are really exploiting others. Let's try, as government comes up with modalities on how best we can solve that, but individually, let's be considerate for one another. I was listening to my brothers, the Muslims, who are also saying we are hard hit, everybody's hard hit. Let's please think about one another. Have a lovely day. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This